special event alert.
I was last minute Christmas shopping and I got a ticket for parking in the handicap. Which is excuse number 357 for being late for changeover, your weekly space news and variety show. I'm your host, Marty Smith, and I'm joined by Mr. History, Eric Perra.
Woo! Santa Claus's business assistant tonight.
Oh, man, you're a candy cane pimp.
Yeah, baby. And oh, by the way, aren't you a handicapped individual? You forgot to put the sign up.
Well, I got a story about that. I'll tell you that in a second.
Good.
We're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all Guardians and to the other lower branches as well. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh because...
Late for Changeover is rocking it from the mountain to the space coast!
You gotta love it.
He gets so mad at that. I really do. But
I gotta love it.
there was a time that, because I have
a question.
Well,
Are you
yeah,
recording?
sure.
Because it shows in recording.
No, I'm recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My bad. Sorry.
Well, I have done that in the past, so that's a
Continue.
valid question.
I just said it. Thought it was.
But I
ended.
went to the airport. I was super late, right? And I parked in a handicap in parking. And I ran to the plane, got on the plane. And I have disabled veteran plates, right? But they're not handicap plates. But it does say disabled veteran. And I was like, come on. Who's going to give a ticket? I got a ticket. Holy shit. $350 for parking.
Ow!
Spot. I was like, are you kidding me?
You should have rolled up in your wheelchair with no prosthetic on
God.
and
They
said,
would have just said you didn't have a placard. So,
all right, that's true.
oh my God. I was
Learned
like,
the hard
what
lesson.
a ball busting ticket, man. God dang. So that part is true.
Woo! That's a hard lesson.
Merry Christmas, Eric. Merry
Yes,
Christmas,
sir.
Jake, wherever you are traveling today.
Yeah, we miss Mr. Jake in the closet.
I know, but he'll be back for our year ender next week.
Right on.
That'll
Right
be
on.
fun, man. We'll
End of the year.
well, yeah, we'll talk that. So today, since we're recording on Christmas Eve, but it's going to be played on Christmas Eve, I thought we'd run through some military operations that happened on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
Oh, yeah. I like it, man. I just happen to have some stories for you.
Oh, how perfect is that? Let's see. So as I was going down through this, you would think there would be a lot more operations that spanned over Christmas Eve. There wasn't really a lot. There's not.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know what, though? I did see there are a number of places where you got individual soldiers or sailors or airmen to talk about that documented their Christmas Eves at the lines or something. But I mean, it wasn't an operation per se. It was just a good story in most of the instances of them saying what they went through on a Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
I think one of my earliest memories when I was during Desert Shield, when they had all those swinging mother scratchers out there just standing around waiting, right?
Yeah.
I remember pictures coming back from Christmas where they're standing in their sleeping bags, because it was cold during the evenings, right?
Yep.
And they're like, "Hey, Merry Christmas!" And they're standing in their fart sacks, just
Zipped
up, right? I want to say some people would cut the feet out, but I'm not sure. I think they could be zipped. That they had that two-way zipper. I want to say because I saw them standing there, so I don't know. I don't know how they did it, but I remember distinctly seeing that.
Yeah, mine didn't zip from the feet up. It only zipped.
I remember. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
It's
but
one direction.
I remember a bunch of them just standing there talking to the news guy, like, "Oh, Merry Christmas," and they're standing out there freezing their hats off.
How many fighting positions did you sit in?
Right. Yeah.
Sitting in the freaking thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So I thought we'd cover these military operations on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day to give all you who are still in the military some perspective on what your brothers and sisters had to go through, especially you Space Force guys.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a bunch of them working, obviously 24/7 work centers. The Army and Marines give the Air Force and Space Force such a hard time, but I think they have more people actually working on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day because of these 24/7 work centers.
I think so. Yeah.
And the Army will be like, okay, don't drink, don't safety brief, whatever, and we'll see you back here on Monday or whatever it is. So to all you guys working shift, it could be worse, right? It could be worse. So,
well, and in most instances, it's much better after you hear a couple of these stories. You're like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's nice to get a different. I mean, usually we talk things that aren't so good or not so well. And this is some feel good stuff.
Right. This is actually, I took the tragedy of Fort Fisher out. And that was during the Civil War, where tragedy for the North, maybe the South are like, yeah, we beat that ass, but we're not going to cover that one. So first one is obvious, but I didn't realize it was on Christmas Day. Was General George Washington and the Continental Army crossing the Delaware. I didn't realize that was on Christmas Day, Christmas night, actually. Right? You just hear about him doing it. And you're like, wow, that must have sucked. And you're like, oh, this is Christmas night. And these guys are like, fuck.
Right? Put your gear on. We're going to cross the river.
Right. Well, Washington's aim was to conduct oh, shoot. I did this and I'm going to use it. Right?
There we go.
So Washington's aim was to conduct a surprise attack upon a Hessian garrison of roughly 1,400 soldiers located in and around Trenton, New Jersey. Washington hoped that a quick victory at Trenton would bolster sagging morale in his army and encourage more men to join the ranks of the Continentals come the new year. After several councils of war, George Washington set the date for the river crossing for Christmas night, 1776. Why? Well, Washington knew the Hessian garrison would be less alert, probably drunk, expecting no major action during Christmas.
Celebrating on Christmas.
Yeah. Thanks to foresight, General Washington. Here's some facts about this thing. Because I think we've all heard the tale. He took, I think, a couple thousand men and artillery pieces and horses, which is pretty amazing.
In frigid waters.
Just like hurricane condition or
frigid cold
winter hurricane conditions.
Yeah,
one of the guys described it. And they beat the Hessians down in Trenton. But here's some little facts about that. Thanks to foresight of General Washington, the actions of the New Jersey militia, the American forces had brought all available watercraft on the Delaware to the southern bank, thus denying the British use of these crafts while making them available for an American crossing. Much of Washington's force crossed the river in shallow draft Durham boats. I've never heard of a Durham boat, which are strongly built cargo vessels, most between 40 and 60 feet in length, designed to move iron ore and bulk goods down the river to markets in and around Philadelphia. So these are some sturdy son of guns, right?
I wonder how many they'd hold, because when we're talking about cargo, there's got to be a little more room than your normal rowboat, right?
Yeah, sure. And they did say that all the men stood to make room, right?
Okay.
So plus, I guess sitting down wasn't comfortable, so they had to stand.
Put that outboard on, crank her up, let's go.
There's some paddles, man. It's cold as shit. These stout craft with their high sidewalls were robust enough to survive the ice-choked Delaware. Heavy artillery pieces and horses were transported on large flat-bottom ferries and other watercraft more suited to carrying that type of difficult cargo. It shouldn't be surprising that most Washington soldiers stood during the crossing, since the bottoms of Durham boats were neither comfortable nor dry. So they're standing in water and ice. Yeah.
Worse.
By the time that most of the soldiers had reached the launching point for the boats, the drizzle that had started earlier that day had turned into a driving rain. And by 11 o'clock that evening, Christmas evening, while the boats were crossing the river, a howling nor'easter made the miserable crossing even worse, which would make the Hessians in Trenton be like, there's no way these sorry sacks are coming across here, right? The Continentals brought a great quantity of artillery across the river. Under the overall command of Colonel Henry Knox, the Continentals brought 18 cannons over the river, 3-pounders, 4-pounders, and some 6-pounders, horses to pull the carriages, and enough ammunition for the coming battle. The 6-pounders weighing as much as 1,750 pounds were the most difficult to transport to the far side of the river. But in the end, all the trouble of moving a large artillery train to Trenton proved its worth. Knox would place the bulk of his artillery at the top of the town where its fire commanded the center of Trenton. Once ready, Washington led his army on the road to Trenton. It was there that he secured an important victory for the Continental Army. Without the determination, resiliency, this sounds like the end of an award statement, right? Without the determination, resiliency, and leadership exhibited by Washington while crossing the Delaware River, the victory at Trenton would not have been possible. So,
what's the end of the Declaration? Bestowing, reflecting great credit upon
himself, the
United States. So I have, when you talk about that, you only hear, hey, he crossed the Delaware.
Yeah.
You never hear about the kind of boat. Was the boat high enough when it got to the other shore? How high was it to get these things off? Was it a gentle slope out of the river? Was it a freaking bank? Was it a
20 guys going push?
Right. You never hear about that. So that's interesting. Now I understand a little bit more. Standing flat bottoms for, the cannon and horses, trailers. So you're talking about an armada crossing the river, not just one or two boats, right?
Yeah, it was. I didn't get the total vessel count, but it was tens. So it was dozens.
1,400, 1,600 people crossed the river.
Yeah, about I think he had like 2,000 or 3,000 people. So they this wasn't, and it was a 300-yard crossing, so 3 football fields, right? It was fairly narrow where they were crossing, but the current was going. The ice was banging into the boat. Water's inside the boat. These guys are miserable. You got horses coming over too. And so it took them all night. And then the next day they attacked Trenton and beat these guys. Are like, how the hell did these guys get here? Right?
Well, and then you there had to be medical emergencies, don't you think? Somebody got frostbite.
Absolutely, man.
I mean,
they never talk about that, right?
They weren't prepared weather-wise. They had already lost a number of engagements. Before this, and
they lost a lot. Right.
That's a lot of Christmas hope right there, man.
But that spurred them on, and more people joined, and then victory, and then the British were like, "This is costing way too much, man. Let's get out of here." So
allows us to sit here and be proud Americans and not British.
Well, our first Christmas op was a success. So
I love it.
Well done, General Washington. No wonder.
Attaboy, Georgie.
In the president. No way. That's great.
Whether you had wooden teeth or not, well done.
Well, good thing he had wooden teeth, man. That cold is probably warmer than his regular tooth.
Perfect.
All right, Eric.
Cool. I think that's a great transition.
In chronological order here?
Nope.
Are you going?
Nope.
Oh.
Well, yeah, I am. I actually am. Sorry. We're going to take the SS Meredith victory first. So,
well, that's not chronological.
World War II. Oh, you're right. Korea's after that. My bad.
All right, we can go. We can do that. We can jump back and forth through time.
Let me go out of order.
Which one do you want to do?
I'll go out of order because I like the story, man. I love the story, and transitioning from a boat story to another boat story works.
Oh yeah, okay. Here you go.
All right,
SS Meredith Miracle.
So, and it's funny. This is December 1950, and the war was kind of going badly initially. Well, initially it was going well, but then towards the end it started having some problems.
Oh, once the Chinese got involved.
Chinese jumped in, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the Korean War, kids. That's the Korean War we're talking about.
So we're talking
off police action, technically.
You know what? It truly wasn't a war, right? Nobody died. Very few died. So this story is about the SS Meredith, the Victory Christmas Miracle, and how a cargo ship, which is actually part of the Merchant Marines, we never even talk about them very often in our stories. So to see them come involved, right?
That's a
Merchant
good
Marines.
point because
Yeah,
along with Washington, all those boats were civilian boats.
even
know?
better.
Yeah. Yeah. So we go right from that to the Merchant Marines. Good transition.
Yeah. So this cargo ship pulled off the greatest humanitarian rescue in history, according to some. Right? Well,
Really?
wait till you hear the numbers. So
Okay.
Christmas and miracles are old companions. We tend to picture those miracles arriving with angels, trumpets, and carefully managed amount of ambient glow. Real miracles, however, rarely bother with presentation. The USS Meredith does have some presentation.
Oh,
So the SS Meredith Victory Christmas Miracle, a story that sounds like someone pitched it in a writer's room and got told to dial it back because audiences would never buy it, actually happened. Right? A plain U.S. merchant marine cargo ship built for freight becomes the unlikely centerpiece of a Korean War Christmas miracle, the greatest humanitarian rescue in history by a single ship. Achieved with minimal supplies, freezing weather, once again, a theme here, freezing weather,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and a passenger count that would make any safety inspector immediately walk the plank. So
Nice.
I love this. So by December 1950, the Korean War had entered the phase military strategists politically summarized as an unwelcome reversal of fortune. The United Nations forces had advanced north, were suddenly retreating under intense pressure, including the entry of Chinese forces into the conflict. Northeastern Korea was bitterly cold, the front lines were unstable, and the port of Hungnam became the focal point of an evacuation that was both military and civilian, orderly and chaotic, planned and improvised, sometimes all within the same hour. All right, so I'm going to give you, here we go. Allow us to introduce the least festive hero imaginable, the SS Meredith Victory. She was a Victory-class cargo ship in the Merchant Marines designed to do what cargo ships do, move stuff.
Yeah.
Supplies, fuel, equipment. The military Victory was not a troop transport. She was not a passenger liner. Remember that.
All right.
She was not a floating shelter with bunks and blankets and a soothing onboard playlist called Winter Calm. Didn't
Guy's
have any
very
of those.
flowery, whoever wrote this article.
Yeah. Her official human capacity was 12 passengers plus a crew of 47. What's that? 47, 57, 59, right? 59 total. That number matters because capacity is the sort of thing reasonable people check before attempting large and complicated tasks. It is why no one asked the coworker with the tiny compact car to handle the office Christmas dinner carpool. Okay, let's move on.
You got to edit that stuff out there.
I got to pull that out. So the captain of the Meredith was Leonard LaRue.
Ooh.
It's the sort of name that sounds like it belongs to a swashbuckler and an adventure movie. Yeah. He was a professional mariner, part of the USS Merchant Marine Korean War effort, one of those institutions that lives in the background of history, doing work politely labeled support until it suddenly becomes the only thing standing between people and disaster. At Hungnam, LaRue faced the kind of decision history loves to drop on ordinary people. The choice between the safe option that follows the rules and the human option that might solve the actual problem in front of you, or go spectacularly wrong if you miscalculate. There were civilians everywhere in Hungnam as evil military forces are bearing down on them, the bad guys.
Okay.
And not enough ships to evacuate them all.
This wasn't part of that Incheon retreat, right?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
I do not believe so. This is separate.
All right.
Cargo ships are not supposed to become refugee ships on short notice. They are certainly not supposed to do it in winter under threat through hazardous waters. LaRue made a snap decision. He ordered much of the cargo unloaded to make room for refugees. So right there, you're disobeying your orders, right? You're also not getting needed supplies to where they needed to go. Correct?
True.
All right. So this is concerning.
So he dumped his cargo.
He's dumping his cargo.
Wow.
Let's see. And then he used it to hold as many lives as his ship could physically contain. You'll love it. The boarding of the Meredith Victory was not elegant. It was not comfortable. It was not a process that would look good in a safety training video.
Yeah.
People poured aboard, then more. The holds filled, the decks filled, every inch became standing room. The passenger capacity of 12 did not get revised upward. It got obliterated, as if reality took one look at the number and laughed until it fell over. By the time the ship departed, roughly 14,000 Korean civilians were on board.
On that one ship?
14,000.
Holy shit.
Not a typo. On a ship designed to carry 12.
Whoa.
All right. So anyway, they get away. They're in waters. The Meredith Victory sailed south through dangerous waters in winter, carrying thousands of civilians with little food, little water, and almost no protection from the elements, beyond the fact that a ship is, at minimum, a solid object between passengers and the sea. This is the point one would obviously expect the story to take a very dark turn. Overcrowding tends to create panic. Shortages tend to produce conflict. Cold, fear, and exhaustion tend to do what they do best. Let's not forget those heartless killjoys called gravity, buoyancy, and physics, meaning seasick, waves, puking. No place to go to the bathroom. And yet the voyage held. No one died on the crossing. The fact alone is almost enough to justify describing this as a Christmas miracle, but miracles rarely stop at mere survival. So I'm going to add this in because it's important. It sort of is important. There were also 5 women pregnant. 5 babies were delivered in this time frame of the crossing. The babies
on the ship?
Yep. The babies became known as Kimchi 1 through Kimchi 5.
Kimchi.
The sailors called them Kimchi 1 through Kimchi 5. My God.
That's so bad.
Isn't it? I love that. So the Meredith Victory reached Busan on Christmas Eve. Because Busan was already overwhelmed, the ship continued on to Gouge Island, where the refugees disembarked on Christmas Day. Wow. Hence the miracle, no deaths and 5 bursts, 14,000 freaking passengers on this boat, man.
Ship. That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. It is a Christmas moment in the most direct sense. Thousands of civilians who could have been lost instead stepped onto land alive on Christmas Day. The ship became known as the Ship of Miracles, which sounds like something you would find in a children's book until you remember the ship was a working cargo vessel, and the miracle involved standing shoulder to shoulder in freezing weather with minimal supplies while trying not to die. Wow. The end.
And the captain got court-martialed after that.
I didn't read any further. I'd love to know, but I'll that's for a later time. I'll figure out what happened to it. Because I'm sure somebody had to say, dude, where's my supplies? I can't put fuel. I can't put people in my tanks. I can't put people in
But
my
it was all a full retreat too, right? Were there some troops in there? Were they all civilians?
No, there was some military. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some. I think I read something that there was some UN troops, right? UN troops, which was mostly us. So
pretty cool story. I think it's really neat that a guy decided to save people during the conflict.
Yeah,
where he could have said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and a loss of life.
And who knows? Crazy. I wonder. Yeah, you're right. What's the aftermath of him doing that? Who's the supply army, the army supply guy who's yelling at the merchant marine like, "Where the F did you dump your what?"
Yeah, right.
And now
14,000 people.
Yeah, now we look at it and go, "Good on you, buddy. Good on you.
Good on you."
But I bet he took some shit for that. So.
Well, and I don't know how you can calculate the impact on the forces that actually needed the materials either. Who knows what the materials were? It didn't identify as cargo.
Well, yeah,
it did say fuel. I don't think it said ammunition.
Good point. It's not like Dunkirk where we're saving the army.
Right.
It's like, hey, we're saving civilians who, which was the whole point of the UN policing action anyway.
That's right. That's right. Yep. No,
Christmas Miracle, 1950.
Merchant Marines, right on.
Good on you, boys. Good on you.
Yeah.
Remember, we talked about the Merchant Marines like a couple of years ago.
Man, I don't remember ever talking about the Merchant Marines. Did we talk about
Yes,
that?
we've talked about the Merchant Marines.
Well, we haven't talked about them enough. We need to come up with a new story
guess
for the
so.
Merchant Marines.
Yeah. Are they still out there? Do we still have?
I think they do. We'll have to check. I don't know. Good question.
Probably unionized now. So that guy would be like, "Hey, that's going to put me over hours. I can't take that." Many
sorry.
So.
Yeah.
Union rules.
Can't do it. Nope.
Well, Eric, I am making you work tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I know, because I'm making you do 2 stories. So Jake will be like, "Oh shit, I'm glad I wasn't there for that one."
I did happen to find another one, so I'm prepared.
But I tell you, you talked about the SS Meredith being like, "Oh, this is like a movie, right?" This is really like a movie. This next story you got, that's crazy. That is like somebody wrote it. You know,
I wasn't aware of this.
Fritz Vincken, I guess.
And it's funny too because of how young they were. Did you know?
Oh yeah.
Crazy. All right.
So tell us about this. Was during Battle of the Bulge, right?
Right, World War II.
Yeah.
Yep. Christmas Eve, 1944. Wow. So American and German soldiers came together for a temporary truce in Hurtgen Forest.
Oh yeah.
Unplanned, unscheduled, which is kind of a little bit creepy, right? A little scary. Oh. Wow. So the Battle of the Bulge is raging from December 44 to January 45. German forces launched their last major offensive in Western Europe following
winter offensive.
Ooh, cold, crazy cold. Yeah. It was believed the Germans wouldn't launch an attack in these conditions, but desperate
just like the Hessians.
So if we ever go to war again, I'm never gonna not put my frickin' guards out because it's cold.
No kidding. That's when they're coming.
They're coming. Right? Yes. Or what do they call them? Usually when you stand to and stand down, stand to.
Oh yeah.
5 o'clock in the morning. Right.
Right.
So it was believed the Germans wouldn't launch an attack in these conditions, but desperate to return the tides of war to their side, they did, sending over 406,000 troops into battle on December 16th. Intense fighting followed, with both sides using the terrain to their advantage. Eventually, Germans found themselves on the losing side. By Christmas time, they found themselves trapped in a narrow corridor near Foy Notre Dame. Cool. This, paired with the newly arrived Allied air support, sealed their fate, and the Allies securing their hard-fought victory on January 20th. Having dedicated much of the remainder of the fighting force to the offensive, the Germans found themselves having exhausted all efforts in Western Europe, and a lot of Germans were dispersed. Got separated from units.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it happens.
We had a bunch of that too. We had that too.
Oh, yeah.
Just so happens.
So the fighting in the Ardennes is where our main character is. Our 12-year-old, how about that? Fritz Vincken, who with his mother Elizabeth moved to the Hurtgen Forest in Germany near the Belgian border after their hometown of Aachen, Aachen, was destroyed as a result of the continued fighting. On Christmas Eve, the two heard a knock at their door. Outside, there were 3 American soldiers, one whom was gravely injured. So we've got Americans knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Despite the language barrier, the American troops couldn't speak German, and the Vitkins didn't understand English. The group was
there like I think I read there was like 3 of them.
Yep.
There was like 3 guys, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they were able to communicate in French, with Fritz's mother letting the trio into the home where they had a touching conversation. We learned that the stocky, dark-haired fellow was Jim. His friend, tall and slender, was Robin. Fritz later recalled. And Harry, the wounded one, who was now sleeping in Fritz's bed, his face was white as snow outside.
He was the one who was wounded, right?
Yep, he was hurt.
Okay.
They've lost their battalion and had wandered into the forest for 3 days, looking for Americans and hiding from Germans. Once again, cold, snow, not well prepared. one injured,
wounded, yeah,
right?
hungry,
Hungry, yeah.
yeah.
Hadn't shaved, but still, without their heavy coats, they looked merely like big boys, and that was the way the mother began to treat them, like big boys. Come on in.
Oh, nice.
As Fritz Vincken's mother made their guest a dinner of potatoes and a rooster, a second knock came at the door.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Believing the men outside to be American, the 12-year-old Fritz opened the door without hesitation, only to realize that the group of 4 weren't Allied troops. They were Wehrmacht soldiers.
Oh, they were. I knew they were Germans, but I didn't know they were Wehrmachts.
Wehrmacht.
Oh, man. God.
Not good, right?
Right.
Enemies. The men explained that they had lost their battalion and were looking for a place to hunker down until morning.
So they
Fritz
were lost
grew nervous.
too.
Yep. Fritz grew nervous, aware that the harboring enemy troops, in this case the Americans, was a crime punishable by death.
Right.
Elizabeth Vicken allowed the 4 to enter, but informed them that they already had guests whom they may not consider friends. No shit. That's quite the way of putting it.
Well, and that family's caught. They're like, oh shit.
What am I going to do?
We could be put to death for having these guys in here. Right?
Well, and no husband, no man, right? Her and the 12-year-old.
Just her and her son. Yeah.
While the Germans were initially upset, Elizabeth cooled down the situation. Listen, you could be my sons, and so could they. In there, she told them. A boy with a gunshot wound, fighting for his life, and his 2 friends. Lost like you, and just as hungry and exhausted as you. This one night, this Christmas night, let us forget about killing.
Amazing.
And so they did. Yes. The Germans left their arms at the door and entered the Vicken residence, after which the Americans did the same. After some time, the group loosened up, realizing that at that particular moment, they weren't enemies fighting on the battlefield. They were men celebrating Christmas Eve together and celebrating life. Before long, everyone had tears in their eyes.
I had read a version of that where one of the Germans was singing, what was it? One of the Christmas songs, "Oh Holy Night" or something like that, in Latin.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. And that as he was singing it, the Americans recognized the tune, and so they sang the English words to it, and so they sang together.
Oh, see, it didn't say here.
Whoa! That was crazy, right?
It was pretty interesting, and I was talking about the ages. I wanted to say how old they were.
They had to all be in their early 20s, right?
Well, the Germans, there was 2 of them that were in their teens.
Oh, damn! Really?
Yeah, there we go. Even to me, all the soldiers. Fritz said the soldiers looked very young, and as we sat there together, Heinz and Willie. Those were the two Germans from Cologne. Were both 16.
Whoa!
16.
No way. Yeah, that's right. Because later in the war, as they were trying to get supplies, they were taking anybody they could get, right?
And their corporal, the German corporal, was at 23. He was the oldest of everyone there in the room.
Wow. I find that amazing that the mother was like, "You can come in, but you got to leave your weapons out here." And then went to the Americans and like, "We got to take your weapons too." Right? Yep. Took disarmed 7 people, and they all sat.
We're going to do it my way.
Yeah, that's badass.
That's cool.
That is really badass.
The next morning, everyone had a makeshift breakfast, including Harry, who had regained some of his strength in the night. After this, a makeshift stretcher was crafted from 2 poles in the Vickens tablecloth, which the other 2 American soldiers would use to transport their wounded comrade. Before leaving, the 3 Americans checked their location on a map, and with the help of from the German corporal, plotted their route back to their own lines. The 23-year-old even handed them a compass. So it's almost like they became pals.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we don't want to kill each other.
Before long, the Germans and Americans were handed back their weapons, after which they shook hands and went their separate ways. As they left, Elizabeth bid them farewell, saying, "Be careful, boys. I want you to get home someday where you belong. God bless you all." Amazing. Now, we talked about it. Fritz goes on, right?
Yeah.
Goes to Hawaii, becomes a citizen.
He grows up. Yeah, he becomes an American citizen, right?
Yep. And then they try to locate. In 1959, he immigrated to the States, opened a bakery. While building a life for himself in the U.S., he always remembered the soldiers he met on Christmas Eve in 44 and the many truce that occurred in the small cottage in the forest. In 53, aware his chances of seeing the men again were slim, Fritz published his story in the Reader's Digest.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
Intending to bring his story to a wider audience. The television appearance worked, with a nursing home chaplain in Frederick, Maryland, contacting the producers of Unsolved Mysteries to inform them of a resident who served in the 121st Infantry Regiment 8th Infantry Division during World War II.
Wow.
Fritz flew to Maryland and met Ralph H. Bank, who at 76 was in poor health. Their reunion was captured on camera, with Ralph telling him that his mother saved his life, indicating he was Harry in the story, the wounded soldier in his bed.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. I was amazed. Humanity still has a little hope. And that's what gives us a little bit of hope, man.
And we didn't cover it, but there's that World War I Christmas Day story, right? On the Western Front, where they truced it, and then guys came out and shook hands. They played soccer with each other. Yep. These are opposing armies were doing that, right? Sang Christmas carols.
Yeah.
And then like the next day, they're like, okay, back in the trenches.
Well, and the funny thing too, it's not as well known. And I told you I was looking for this story earlier. There was a Christmas truce during the Civil War too, where the Yanks and the Southern Confetti boys were actually talking. They never left their positions, but they communicated and stopped all hostilities. They weren't shooting at each other. And communicated. So I think that was pretty cool.
And the Southern guys were probably like, hey, we just killed a camel. You want some camel meat?
You killed my Doug. Doug the camel. Come on. That was terrible.
That's one of the best stories I never have heard before. That's amazing.
We need to make that one into a movie, man. Think it's been made into a movie?
I mean, speaking of that, this next story has been made into a movie.
That's awesome.
But it confuses me because I remember Disney did like Dumbo Drop. Remember Operation Dumbo Drop? Yep. This is not Operation Dumbo Drop. This is Operation Christmas Drop, right?
Which
started in 1952. Actually, our friend Jake turned me on to this story. So I found an article on this from the Indo-Pacific Forum. I think it was a Defense Department article that they copied, but I'm going to give them credit for it. So, U.S. allies and partners join forces for Operation Christmas Drop 2025. The U.S. Department of War's longest-running humanitarian airlift mission began in 1952 after a U.S. Air Force B-29 crew flying near Guam spotted islanders waving and dropped supplies as an act of goodwill.
Nice.
So, I'm sure those guys got chewed out for that, but they're like, what are you flying so low for? Something like that, right?
I'm sure.
It's from a B-29. They drop supplies to these.
It's not like they're flying at low altitude.
Who knows? Maybe they did, and he got dressed down for it, right? Air forces from Australia, Canada, Japan, the Philippines, Republic of Korea, and the United States, among other organizations, teamed up for Operation Christmas Drop, launched from Andersen Air Force Base in Guam in December 2025. So a couple weeks ago, I think they started it. Conducted annually from the U.S. territory of Guam, the operation delivers about 37,000 kilograms of supplies. I hate when they do kilograms. I mean, I'm confused enough about how much pounds is. But
tell us what the tonnage was.
I know. 37,000 kilograms of supplies and gifts across the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Palau for more than 42,000 residents spread across nearly 60 remote islands and 4 million square kilometers of airspace. Supplies are dropped by parachute from about 60 meters above the ground ocean island, right?
60 meters.
60 meters, not very high. A football field plus, right? So they're flying low and slow, I would imagine. The multinational operation led by the 374th Airlift Wing from Yokota Air Base, Japan, improves interoperability. This sounds like a statement, right?
Let's toot our horn on this one.
Yeah, improves interoperability and communications for humanitarian response. During the week-long mission, allies and partners delivered 270 bundles of critical supplies while conducting low-level flight, precision airdrop, and logistical coordination training, skills that strengthen the ability to execute rapid airlift missions across the Indo-Pacific. The people of the Federated States of Micronesia extend our deepest gratitude. I don't even know. I must have cut his name off. But they said at this opening ceremony, beyond the food, tools, fishing gear, school supplies, and gifts, you deliver something far more valuable, the spirit of compassion that defines this Christmas season. So they just deliver supplies to him.
You know, a lot to be said about that, right? Promoting goodwill instead of just blowing shit up.
Well, yeah, right.
Got a drug boat out there, we're going to blow it up. But you can
yeah.
expect a little Christmas greeting from us.
What? And they're dropping supplies. I thought they'd throw some toys in there, you know, but I guess not. But I mean, this is one of those things, not to sound negative, but this is one of those things that if you don't participate in it, you will be frowned upon, right?
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure. They're like,
for sure.
Not me. I'm spending, I'm going down and drinking. They're like, no, you are not.
For sure. No, I really truly like the good stories, man. We hear so much about conflict in our lives every day.
Yeah.
And to see people being human and doing the right thing.
Well, the U.S. has gotten, I mean, by policy, right? The U.S. is just hated. I would hate it too. Imagine if you lived in a country and you got these troops, man. These guys are look at all the stories we did about Japan. And you just got drunk Marines ending up on your balcony. We get rid of these guys, right?
Yeah.
And then we turn around and we do something like this since 1952.
That's huge.
70.
That's huge.
70 some years or whatever that is. So,
and that's a whole lot of supplies.
Cool. Yeah, that's a lot of supplies.
A lot of supplies. Whew.
So good on you, Air Force, for doing that, and probably Navy, maybe. But
no, I'm sure
probably Air Force. It all came out of Yokota, so that's all
Air Force
right there.
Yeah. Right on.
So good job.
Yeah,
that was fun.
It was fun, and I told you I enjoy the Christmas stories. Feel good versus we just blew some shit up, or we meet somebody, or
shot another drug boat. You know, it's this is where especially that Battle of the Bulge story. You know, where you're just like, all right, I know we're supposed to kill each other, but not today.
Let's hold off.
I mean, nobody wants to kill each other. The generals do, but nobody wants to. Right?
Well, and I don't know this for a fact, but as a 16-year-old, are you really truly willing to die so quick on a cold night when I'm freaking cold? And man, so it's good to see him freaking stand down, man.
Especially when it's just like 4 Germans, 3 Americans.
Yeah.
I think I had read part of that story where one of the Germans was medically trained or something like that and helped the wounded guy out. I don't know if he got stable, but yeah, that's those stories are lost to history. So but it's late for changeover that brought him back up. So I wasn't giving us a thumbs down. I should have pointed that way, right?
Well, there you go, people. We do some things good and not just all bad.
We do. And to all you guys working shift and working this Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, it won't last forever. You won't have to do it all the time, but you probably have to do it tomorrow and the next day.
Yes, you do.
Thank you for doing it. Embrace the suck, right? I remember doing that, having to coordinate through the divorce, right? The daughter has to go over to her mom's house. I get her half a day, but part of that is I got to work shift. And it's just like, so I know there's a lot of service members out there who have to deal with that same thing, that juggle.
A little out of control, man.
Good on you. It's best for the kid. It runs you mentally it wrings your mind out for for the holidays, but do it. Make sure they have a good Christmas, even if you only get to spend a couple hours with them.
Memories is what it's all about, man.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Well, I think that brings our Christmas Eve show to end up, Eric.
Well done, Marcus.
Right? Yeah, well done, Candy
Good
Cane
show.
Pimp. Man. Look at it. You
Business
are
associate, man.
You are, yeah.
Hell, I even got the white color going on.
I know you do.
I went directly for the man.
Has anybody ever asked you to play Santa?
No.
Why not, dude? When you grow that full beard, that is so good looking.
I'd like to think that they go, ooh, he's just not fat enough.
Dude, no Santa's for you. Push some pillows in there. But look at you're a big man. Big Saint Nick looking guy.
I got nobody to impress being Santa Claus. My wife would just chuckle at me. She chuckled at me with this thing on.
Hopefully she watches. So
she took a picture. So,
you gotta walk around like this.
Threatening my coat.
That is. Why do you have that coat?
So it's interesting. My nephew, my wife's sister's son was turning 30 years old, and he does it. His birthday is on the Kentucky Derby.
Oh,
so he had a Dirty 30 party.
Yes, they do wear jackets like that. Right?
So I had a coat and a bow tie and
did you have a mint julep? Did you drink a mint julep that day?
I did at the party. So there was a bunch of us at the party and it was a surprise party for him. So it was
Derby.
But that's where this freaking thing came from.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was a good time. That was like, I think he's 37 now, 36. So it's been a few years back.
Really?
This is the first time it's caught him off, boss.
And it's like, what am I going to do with this thing? And lo and behold, perfect.
For sure.
That's awesome. Jake, we miss you. Merry Christmas, buddy.
Merry Christmas, Jake.
On behalf of all of us here, I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And make sure next week that you are not
late for changeover.
Eric, thanks for being here. Jake, we miss you. And to everyone listening and watching, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.